The Los Angeles Chargers finished the 2025 regular season 11-6 before having a disappointing end to the season, losing the last 2 games and getting blown out in the wildcard round. So in today's video, I am going to be giving you guys a mock off season for the Los Angeles Chargers. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're new and do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So if you guys don't know how the mock off seasons work, we are going to begin by recapping the 2025 season, what went good, what went wrong. We're then going to talk about some team needs. We're going to talk about the salary cap situation. We're going to open up some salary cap. We'll do my free agency plan, and at the end of the video, we'll do a 3-round mock draft. With that said, let us hop into the 2025 season because, let's be honest, it was good and it was bad. I say it was good and bad because you made it to the playoffs. You were 11-6. You had a really productive year in a lot of different ways. But in this game versus New England, the Chargers were just not competitive. And obviously, it's not for a lack of talent. Obviously, it's not for a lack of quarterback play. There was a lot of different issues from an injury perspective that derailed the season for the Los Angeles Chargers. For starters, let's talk about your 2 tackles. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, 2 potentially all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber tackles that missed most of the season. In the case of Slater, he missed the entire year. In the case of Alt, he missed like 70% of the season. Without those 2 guys, without your 2 top tackles, you were looking at an offensive line that didn't have the strongest interior, but now has a weak tackle room, to where now the offensive line was completely abysmal by the end of season. They just simply put could not protect Justin Herbert, and Herbert did everything in his power every single week to will this team to victories. I mean, like, genuinely speaking, if it wasn't for Justin Herbert, this team would have been picking inside the top 10 in my opinion. Because sure, the defense is good, but I wouldn't call the defense like super elite like I would for like the Texans and maybe the Broncos. They're really good, but they're not that in that level. So they would have had an offense without Justin Herbert with the bottom 3 offensive line and some weapons on the outside that, aren't perfect. So it was a tough spot for the Chargers. You also had the injury to Najee Harris. You had the injury to Amari Hampton that derailed his season. It was just a kind of a crapshoot for this roster, and it was unfortunate because they went 11-6, and if this team was healthy, I think they win in the wild card round, but they weren't. So now we should go ahead and start looking towards the future. What are the team needs? Well, I think the biggest team need is the interior of the offensive line. Obviously, when healthy, you feel really good about the combination of Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. Those 2 are Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber guys. But the addition of Mekhi Becton did not work out for them. We've already heard some reports that he's going to probably get cut, which makes some sense. We'll talk about his salary here in just a second, but it checks some boxes. He was not great this year. Zion Johnson has been fine, but I wouldn't call him special or elite or anything like that. And then the center position with Bradley Bozeman was just so frustrating and bad the entire season. So we have to upgrade this interior offensive line. Probably 2, maybe even 3 starter replacements would be wise. I also think defensive line is a bit of a need. They just re-signed Tyler Tart to a 3-year extension. I think it was like $37 million. So good contract right there for one of the better interior defensive linemen on this team. I still think interior defensive line depth would be nice. And we might need another edge rusher because we do have some contracts in Odafe Owe and Khalil Mack that we're going to have to handle. So another edge rusher, some interior depth, I think does make some sense. I also think if a big-time receiver prospect drops to them, they should consider it. Obviously, Ladd McConkey had a bit of a down year. I still think he's a really good player. I just maybe think he's best suited as like a number 2/3 option. Quentin Johnston had a really productive year this year, but he's definitely not a 1, probably not even a 2. He's just a really good 3rd option. And then Keenan Allen is getting up there in age. He's probably not going to be in the league for 3, 4, 5 years. So I think if there is a premier receiver talent, we should consider him. In addition, I think linebacker is a bit of a need. You do have Dion Henley, but outside of him, I think there could be some talent that would be nice to upgrade there. You do have Denzel Perryman, but he's a free agent. He is getting older, and you obviously have Troy Dye there as well. And Junior Colson, but he hasn't really panned out yet. And I think corner is also a bit of a need here as well. So those are the team needs: interior offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, corner, and a potential wide receiver 1 if there's one available. So that is that. Let us go ahead and look at their salary cap situation because it's quite interesting. So their salary cap situation is kind of a tricky one to talk about because on Over the Cap, they list their team cap space at $80 million. Whereas if you go to Spot Track, they list it at $88.08 million. Part of the reason why I think there is a difference is that one of these websites, this one Over the Cap, does not have the Tyler Tart contract on here. But at the same time, this one doesn't have it either. They have him listed here because he did get paid, but there's no specific numbers out there right now. So just to play it safe, I'm going to go with the lower number here in $80.5 million because that's the best I can probably do for you guys. I will be leaving a little bit of extra cap space towards the end of the video just in case I make a mistake with the contracts. There is a little bit of some wiggle room in this video. So really, we don't have to do a ton to open up more money. We have around $80 million to work with, which is already a really good amount. I'm going to make two little moves here to open up a bit more cap space. For starters, let's talk about Mekhi Becton, who we already talked about. He's probably going to be off the team. Just a really disappointing season for somebody that was seen as a premier upgrade for this roster. I mean, look at the numbers here, just abysmal. Which again is so frustrating because this is 2024 with the Philadelphia Eagles where the numbers look unbelievable. But if you go ahead and cut him pre-June 1st, you won't have to worry about it too much. You save $9.7 million, which puts you at roughly $90 million right there. In addition to that, if you restructure the deal of Rashawn Slater, that's about $12.5 million in cap savings. You could restructure Herbert. I think that makes some sense, but I'm not going to restructure him now if I don't have to. I can potentially restructure him in 2027 or 2028, so no real reason to do it this year when you have $80 million to work with and a contract like Rashawn Slater's, which, checks out if you want to restructure. So after those two moves, we went from $80 million all the way up to about $102.5 million, which is plenty of money for us to get some big name guys in free agency while also retaining some guys we want to retain. But before we get into free agency and before we get into the draft, we do need to re-sign a handful of guys that were on this team last year. So this is their list of free agents. This is via Spot Track. Some big name guys here, obviously Khalil Mack, a big name. Zion Johnson. They have a lot of free agents because they had to get a number of players to fill in roles this year. So we got some work that needs to be done. Let's go ahead and start off with who we're going to re-sign, and we'll talk about why we might not be re-signing a couple of these guys. The first big name here is right here in Odafe Oweh, who had a really productive year down the stretch of the season. Spotrac has him listed for $19.3 million. I'm going to give him a bit of a pay increase. We'll go 3 years, $60 million to retain Odafe Oweh. These are his numbers via PFF, a 73.7 overall grade, a 78.0 pass rush grade, 8 sacks on the season. And just so you guys know, it's not a one-year thing. This was him last year before being on the Chargers, 10 sacks, 73.0 pass rush grade. So we're going to make sure we lock in Odafe Oweh. He's still very young. He's still a really good quality rotational piece. Not even a rotational piece. He's probably your starter. Him and Tuli Tuipulotu, you feel pretty good about that. Next, we're going to bring back Trey Pipkins. I know he was not great this year, but we can't just get rid of all our offensive line depth. He should not have been a starter. He's our swing tackle. We're going to bring Pipkins back on a 2-year, $8 million deal. I do think the $5 million they have listed here is a little bit of a reach. We're going to bring back Zion Johnson. I know Zion is not this superstar or elite player or anything like that, but from what I've heard, it sounds like the team likes the guy, the coaching staff. We'll obviously see how McDaniels feels about him, which it's going to be interesting to see how the McDaniels-Harbaugh connection works and how they want to work this offensive line. But I think Zion Johnson checks a couple boxes here. Pretty cheap contract as well here. I'm going to give him a 3-year, $30 million deal. I know these numbers are not like awe-inspiring or anything like that, but he's just really solid. And for an offensive line, I just don't want to create more needs than what I already have to do. These are his numbers last year when he had obviously some really good tackle play around him. So it's obviously not ideal to give him a massive contract. I mean, it's not massive, but to give him a nice contract. But I don't want to have to replace 3 starters in the interior. I'd rather replace 2 than 3. Zion is a quality enough player, and he's an in-house player too, so we'll bring him back. We're also going to bring back Keenan Allen. This one really depends on if he wants to continue to play. I'm going to assume he does. I'm going to give him a 1-year, $5 million deal just to keep him on the roster. He was so consistent and reliable on third down. I think that would make some sense to bring him back for Herbert. And then we'll bring back some other depth options here too. We'll bring back Jamari Sawyer. He had a really nice year as a backup. We'll bring him back on a 2-year, $6 million deal. He's not going to get $9.8 million. 2 years, $6 million. Maybe I'm wrong again. If my money's wrong here, I have some extra money at the end of the video. We'll also bring back Benjamin St-Juste. Rotational corner, had a nice year for the team. We'll bring him back on a 2-year, $8 million deal as well. So when it comes to guys like Khalil Mack, when it comes to guys like Najee Harris, Trevor Penning, Tyler Conklin, we're going to let those guys walk. Some of those guys are good players. We should probably get a little bit younger. I love Khalil Mack. Love the guy. I think he's been great for the Chargers. We brought back Odafe Oweh. We have Tuli already, so it doesn't make the most sense to hand out almost $18 to $20 million to Khalil Mack for what would probably just be a one-year rental. But after all those moves, after we re-signed Odafe Oweh, Keenan Allen, Benjamin St-Juste, Zion Johnson, Trey Pipkins, and Jamar Sawyer, we're at about $56 million in cap space, which is still plenty of money to go out there and get some big name guys in the free agent market. So with that said, let's hop into my free agency plan. And we are going to begin by bringing in Tyler Linderbaum on a 4-year, $80 million deal. So let's make one thing clear. I don't think Linderbaum's going to hit the market. I really do think the Ravens should do everything in their power to keep this guy on their roster. However, I think let's be a little bit fun here. If you can't get Linderbaum, Elton Jenkins, a trade from the Packers, could check out a little bit. But if Linderbaum is on the open market, which there's a chance he is, I think the Chargers should be all over this guy. This is this year via PFF, an 83.7 run block grade, a 63.4 pass blocking grade, over 1,000 snaps played. This is last year in 2024. You can see just really good numbers. 2023, and lastly, his rookie season. This guy's been a stud. He fits what Harbaugh wants to do while also fitting, honestly, what Mike McDaniel wants to do. He's athletic. He moves well. He's a good pass blocker. He's a really good run blocker. He's just a total package. He's going to reset the center market, and rightfully so. He's going to be the highest paid center in the league. And if I'm the Chargers, I want this guy on my roster. So again, I think he'll probably be back in Baltimore, but let's have a little fun here. Tyler Linderbaum on the Chargers makes so much sense. So let's get the job done there. 4 years, $80 million. I gave him a little bit of a pay increase. $20 million is $2 million more than Creed Humphrey, the previous highest paid center. So maybe that could incentivize him to leave Baltimore and go to the Chargers. Then after that, we're going to bring in Wyatt Teller on a 2-year, $20 million deal. So I know people see Brown's offensive lineman and they're like, oh no, stay away from us. You guys stink. Wyatt Teller's a pretty good ball player. This is last year via PFF, 765 offensive snaps, 62.2 overall grade, 65.7 run block grade. Had a bit of a down year as a pass blocker, but he was blocking for quarterbacks that, let's be honest, were not great this year. He's a little bit older, but he's kind of a temporary piece. I still do want to draft a guard who can sit for 2 years and then take over for Wyatt Teller when his time, is gone with the team. Maybe he could even be the starter in 2026. You go back to 2024, just a really solid player. Again, I'm going to go down all these years. You'll just see consistent play every single year here. And I think that is kind of makes a ton of sense for what the Chargers should want. Is he the superstar he used to be? Absolutely not. He's getting up there in age. You can see this is 2020, 92.7 overall grade. He's getting up there in age. The dude's 31 years old. I still think he's super solid and makes a ton of sense for this Chargers team. And the last free agent we're going to bring in is K'Lavon Chaisson for a 3-year, $27 million deal. So kind of like Tyler Linderbaum, I'm pretty confident that K'Lavon Chaisson's going to return to the New England Patriots. However, if he's looking for a pay increase and maybe the Patriots don't want to give him that full $9 million annually, maybe the Chargers could come in there and swipe him off their hands. So Chaisson's kind of had a career resurgence. He's definitely more of a pure pass rusher than he is a run defender, but that's fine because we already have Odafe Oweh and we already have Tuli Tuipulotu. So we're going to rotate all these guys in and out depending on what formations they're going to run, what personnel they have. K'Lavon, though, kind of fits the mold. This is really his big breakout year. But even last year in 2024, I thought he had a really solid season when he was kind of the lone man on that decent Raiders, I guess not decent, but on that decent Raiders defensive line, him and Max Crosby. You can see in years past, he kind of was a bit of a draft bust because he was a former first rounder. He's starting to kind of find his footing in the NFL these past 2 years. Very much more of a DPR guy, designated pass rusher, but that's fine. We have Oweh, we have Tuipulotu. We might draft more of a run defender in the draft. Let's have Chaisson be sort of that third option, right? The guy that comes off the bench to provide a bit of a juice to the defensive line. I want to reiterate, pretty decent chance he returns to New England, but if he doesn't, I think the Chargers should have interest in him for sure. So some other names this team could consider. We obviously talked about Elton Jenkins. I think Jalen Phillips makes some sense. If Rashawn Gary hits the open market, that checks out. Depending on which type of offensive system they want to run, you could go after a guard like Dylan Parham, who is a little bit lighter, but could be better suited for more of a zone, more athletic offensive line like McDaniel-like. So those are some other names to consider there as well. With that all said, let us go ahead and hop into the PFF mock draft simulator. All right, so we're on the simulator. We're gonna do 3 rounds. Again, to kind of reiterate what this team needs as we go through this mock draft. I still think interior offensive line is a need for maybe a developmental piece. If somebody falls to us at 22 that can play that position, I'm not gonna be afraid to take one. Why Wide receiver, still a bit of a need. Cornerback, defensive line depth, maybe a safety slash linebacker too, if there's an interesting name for us there. With that all said, let us hop into it. All right, we're up at pick number 22, and Spencer Fano goes right in front of us, as well as Denzel Boston. I was kind of hoping Boston would check here. Him going to Carolina, I'm not sure about that one, but that is more than okay. Interesting options here. Caden McDonald, if you just want somebody to pair with Tyler Tart. Kind of feel like there's some redundancy there, so I'm probably not going to take him. TJ Parker just dominated day one at the Senior Bowl, so maybe you could consider him a little bit, especially because I think he's a really sound run defender. So TJ Parker might be one of those early sort of names to keep an eye on here. Obviously, Ione gets mocked here a ton, and it obviously checks a number of boxes, but we just brought in Teller, and we have Zion Johnson back, so it's not like we need him, but Teller could also just be sort of a temporary starter, and he's dealt with some injuries, so maybe taking Ione here checks out. But we also brought back Jamari Sawyer, who, I mean, you don't want to start him, ideally, but you could if you really wanted to. And I think him with Linderbaum will make him even that much better. Man, CJ Allen could check out here. I think, honestly, what I'm thinking about doing here is TJ Parker, though. I think we can wait on offensive line here at like 86 and maybe look at potentially taking like a Slaughter, Basantes, JC Davis. Like, there's a ton of talent here that's not refined right now, but there's talent on the board to where I think we can just wait on it. But Caden McDonald's also here too. Number of ways we can go here. I think I'm going to go with TJ Parker, though. You know, I think him with Adafe, with Tui Pelotu, and then with Kalavion Chason, if we bring him in, I think TJ just kind of fits into that rotation there pretty nicely. And I think that defensive edge room would be kind of set. I know some people might say KC Conception. I just don't love the size, him and McConkey. I'd rather have a big body number one guy. Let's go TJ Parker here. Let's go TJ Parker. All right, we're up at number 2, and Kamari Ramsey makes a ton of sense for this defense. Can play on the slot, can play deep, can play in the box. Like, he is that versatile piece they could maybe use a little bit. So I don't hate that one at all. In fact, that's probably my lean here initially. Josiah Trotter. I mean, if you guys watch my podcast, First and 10, you guys know I love Josiah Trotter. I think he has a ton of upside. Him and Dion Henley with that athleticism, with that physicality, man, that'd be cinema. We don't need Joshua Josephs. We have Tyler Linderbaum, so we don't need Connor Liu. Elijah Surratt checks a couple boxes here, if I'm being honest with you. Good size, good weight. Can be your contested catch guy, because that's not really Quentin Johnston's game. You have McConkey, who can primarily work in the slot. Surratt can be on the outside. And then you have QJ, and then Keenan Allen can be a situational starter on 3rd and 4th downs. Boy, this is an interesting one here. I think I lean Elijah Surratt here. I'm not saying Surratt is that number 1, but I feel like you're kind of building a receiving core that has different play styles, and they just kind of complement each other perfectly. This is tough. I love Kamari Ramsey. I love Josiah Trotter, and I love Elijah Surratt. So this is really tough. I think there is more talent in the safety room than there is at receiver, especially as we get to that 86 pick, because I'm just not high on Jacoby Land. I do like Malachi Fields. He could be somebody that fits this team quite a bit, but I think Elijah Surratt's just a bit better. This is tough, man. This is really, really tough. I'm going to go with Elijah Surratt. Let's go with Elijah Surratt here to give them some complementary play styles. And we're back up at 86, and let's look at the safety room and the corner room. Zakie Wheatley, man, that checks a couple boxes right there. I will say they do have RJ Mickens there too, so it's like, do you really need a safety that badly? I think we can wait on safety, because I think there's a ton of talent in this room, like Genesis Smith in the 4th, even Michael Taft. Like, he's just such a smart football player. I love Zakie Wheatley. I think he's a good football player. I think we should maybe look at interior offensive line and interior defensive line, which I'm not loving the board here at interior O-line. I like Armaj Reed Adams. I think he's a quality player. I don't know if he's the priority need. Rutledge from Georgia Tech was just a freaking nightmare matchup at the Senior Bowl, just completely being an asshole the entire day, which you love to see. I tackle Brian Parker, checks some boxes. I don't know if he's athletic enough, but he's very much so a guard at the NFL level. Max Ihenacor, I think he's a tackle. Let's look at interior defensive line. Skylar Gill Howard, he is very much a lighter weight guy, but very much so kind of that disruptor up the middle that can get after the quarterback. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chargers have had smaller interior guys. Like, I think they had Poona Ford. I might be wrong there. Don't quote me on that, but Poona Ford's like 5'11". He's a little bit bigger than him, but still. This is a interesting spot here. I don't really know. Jacob Rodriguez, maybe? I don't hate it. He was really good at the Senior Bowl on day 1. I keep mentioning the Senior Bowl because Senior Bowl is being played literally as I'm speaking right now. I don't know what I'm going to go with here. I'll be honest with you. I think we might be okay on the offensive line because we have the depth options. We have Bozeman, we have Sawyer, we have Pipkins, we have our starting 5. We feel good about that. I think let's prioritize the defense here, and let's just take the best player available, in my opinion. Let's just go best player available on the defensive side in a position of need, obviously. Which, with the way the board has fallen here, I think Sakeet Wheatley is the best player available of these names. But I think interior defensive line might be a bigger need. So let's go Skylar Gill-Howard. Let's give him a little disruptor up the middle, kind of a pure pass rusher up the middle right here for this team. Let's do that. Why not? So this is my mock draft. I honestly don't know if Chargers fans are going to like this mock draft or absolutely hate this mock draft. By the way, PFF is saying that we should have drafted Garrett Nussmeier for the Chargers. Brother, you have Justin Herbert. What? But yeah, please let me know in the comment section if you guys like this mock draft or just absolutely hate it. I actually don't know. So with that said, let us go ahead and do a quick recap as to what this Chargers team is going to look like if this mock offseason actually worked. So at quarterback, we're going to have Justin Herbert, obviously. Running back is going to be Amari Hampton. Our receiving core is going to be Elijah Surratt, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen. At tight end, we're going to have Rondé Gadsden and Will Dissly. If you want to bring him back for cheap, you could also draft one in the 5th or 6th round. Our offensive line is going to be Rashawn Slater at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard. Center is going to be Tyler Linderbaum. Right guard is going to be Wyatt Teller. And our right tackle will be Joe Alt. On the defensive side, we're going to have Tyre Tart, Skylar Gill-Howard, Jamari Caldwell, Justin Aboigbe, Otito Agbania, just kind of competing for reps on the interior of the defensive line. Your outside linebackers are going to be Tuli Tuipulotu, Adafe Owe, and TJ Parker to go along with Kalavion Chason. Your inside linebackers are going to be Dion Henley and Troy Dye. Your secondary is going to have Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Steele, with Benjamin St. Juste also there as well. And your safety room is going to be RJ Mickens, Derwin James, and Elijah Molden. Hopefully I didn't mess that one up. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. Did you like what I did this mock off season, or do you think I'm an idiot? Please let me know in the comment section below. Respectfully, please. Hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.